and he is the interim president of the NAACP. We're also folks on Facebook Live, facebook.com/make it plain. Also, youtube.com/make it plain. Derrick Johnson, the president of the NAACP. Derrick, God bless you. Good morning, man. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't. Oh, that's my fault. I got to do the thing. I'm moving too fast. There we go. Derrick, God bless you, man. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm good. I'm good. What is the NAACP's reaction to what we've seen in Las Vegas?
It's unfortunate to see that tragedy, as it was unfortunate to see the tragedy in Connecticut and so many other places. We must have sensible gun laws. There's no reason why an individual should be stockpiling arms, and we see the outcome of that.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a nation that have rights and protections and Second Amendments, but none of that could ever be considered that we would have the level of gun violence we see in this country, and for a gun industry to justify it, to finance justification for mass murders is unconscionable.
It seems to be that there's no will politically or in Washington to do anything about it either. I mean, I'm a little weary. I don't know about you, but I'm a little weary of all the conversation. Oh, this is so sad, and we regret this, and we don't have any answers, and even the president saying we don't know. We just search for answers. Derrick, I think we know the answer. We need sensible gun laws.
I mean, the answer is clear. If you look at other nations, Canada or Britain or Germany, they do not have this problem. They don't have this problem because they have sensible gun laws.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go back to Brady, that's almost 40 years ago now, or Pearl, Mississippi shooting, Columbine, Paducah, Kansas. It is the same narrative every so many months to a year where we have a tragedy and then we talk about gun laws. We have a problem in this nation, and that problem is the influence of lobbyist money on our public policy.
Yeah. How active, and again, we always want to give people a glimpse, at least, of some of the NAACP's work over the years. How involved has the NAACP and even some of the state conferences and branches, how involved have they been when it comes to these issues of gun violence? I mean, we know the level of gun violence that even exists within our own community, within the African American community, which, by the way, Derrick, I'm sure like me, you decry this term black on black violence. We don't call what happened in Vegas white on white violence.
But the active NAACP is well documented. This is a crusade we have been a part of since the conversation began. I am born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I can recall vividly the rise in gun violence in the city of Detroit. But in that gun violence parallel what was taking place in Harlem and in D.C. and in Atlanta and in Chicago. And the NAACP, we've been an active voice around getting the guns off the street. We can't get them off the street if we don't address the policies which allow manufacturers to have huge loopholes to allow guns to be so pervasive. And the question of black on black crime versus white on white crimes, people are engaged in criminal activity most often around people they are familiar with, the community they come from, and they know. There is as much white on white crime as it is black on black crime, Asian on Asian crime. That's a misnomer. We should not continue to feed into that negative stereotype no more than we should accept it in its existence.
Folks talking about the Vegas shooting with the president of the NAACP. Derrick's a lawyer too. So Derrick, what is the Second Amendment? So for the first time in 2008, we have a ruling from the Supreme Court that the Second Amendment is an individual right to keep and bear arms. It's never been ruled on in that way before. Has the NAACP ever taken a position on that as to whether or not the Second Amendment itself asserts an individual right to keep and bear arms?
But people interpret the Second Amendment to fit their narrative in their political or economic outcome. If we was as vigorous around the right to bear arms, we was as vigorous around the right to vote as we are to right to bear arms, we will have a true democracy, a democracy that allow everyone to participate. But the financial interest from the gun industry is not that. So they have been able to buy, cajole, influence, or manipulate the message in ways in which we assume there is a certain level of right around bearing arms, and it really is. And again, the Constitution, the law is fluid. It's not stagnant. It is subject to interpretation. And interpretation has been one in which allow for this proliferation of military arms on our streets.
We've been hearing from some gun owners. In fact, I have one on the line, Derrick. I'd like for us both to chat with. Ryan's in Illinois. Ryan, you say you're a gun owner?
I am. I'm a gun owner, and back it would have been right. I'm not. What was it last year where the NRA blocked legislation where people on the no-fly list could still buy guns? I dropped my membership to the NRA after that. That was kind of the last straw for me. But I wanted to call because something needs to change in this country with guns. As a gun owner, obviously I don't want to see guns go away, nor do I think that's reality. But it seems like that every time after a tragedy like this, people come out with very hard left or very hard right ideas on the solution of what to do. I'll use after Sandy Hook for an example. When Dianne Feinstein, she came out with the assault weapons ban. We could debate the merits of that all day long. I've got my opinion. I'm sure you have yours. But it just doesn't seem like that's a conversation that's really positioning itself to get any traction and go anywhere. And and here we are 4 or 5 years later, and there's been no progress on guns, and things are as bad as they've ever been. And I just wanted to hear your guys' ideas on how do we fix this, and how can we actually start a productive dialogue as a country about this.
Derrick, what's your response?
Right, just like where I hunt. Deer hunt just started in Mississippi this month. If everything goes right, I hope to be in a stand at least 4 or 5 times during this hunting season. I'm not anti-gun. I am pro-sensible and practical gun regulations. When you hunt in a deer or if I go duck hunting, hunting a automatic or semi-automatic rifle for that is not necessary. And so the question of how do we have a sensible conversation is one in which people come off the fences and come to the middle and have a real conversation. There are many of us in this country that hunt. There are many of us who feel it necessary to protect our personal property, and that's okay. But this guy had an arsenal of arms, many of which could be manipulated to be automatic weapons. And the result of that is 59 people are now massacred, 519 injured because we allow a gun lobby to control the debate.
Yeah. Ryan, I just think somehow we need to get beyond the helplessness of what you're implying, that people left, right, go to extremes. The question is whether or not there's a will to end this type of mass violence due to guns. And frankly, I don't think it's just legislative. I think there's a culture that needs to change. The NRA has been putting out ads that have been promoting gun violence. Now, I think I read something yesterday that the NRA has taken down some of those ads in the wake of what happened in Vegas. But the NRA promotes and glorifies gun ownership and gun violence, and this fantasy, and again, let me be clear, I don't have a problem with hunting either, so to speak, but the NRA promotes this fantasy that you need semi-automatic or automatic weapons to hunt. You don't. And also this fantasy of home invasion. Like, you know, we're just all waiting on somebody to invade our home and we have to defend ourselves. And that rarely happens. Things don't quite go down that way. And it was proven in Vegas, this whole thing of the more guns we have, there were law enforcement out there. People had guns. There was nothing they could do to defend themselves from that situation.
I mean, they couldn't even find the guy.
Yeah.
It took them over an hour just to find them. So, you know, whenever you have an industry that makes billions of dollars peddling fear, and much of that fear is based on racism or some type of stereotype of us against them, that industry needs to be regulated. That industry needs to be put in check, because that industry is a threat to this nation and to this democracy.
No doubt. No doubt. Ryan, thank you for your call, buddy. Andrew in Kansas. Andrew, God bless you. Good morning. You're on the air with the president of the NAACP, Derrick Johnson. Go right ahead, Andrew.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I just have a question that what is it? Which word of the Second Amendment do some people not comprehend as part of a well-regulated militia? I mean, those three words right there speak. You know, they say that we need regulation, and not just regulation, but you know, a lot of it, and only if you're part of a militia. Well, most of these people are none of that.
I mean, you hit it on the nail, right? It is subject to interpretation, and how the money peddlers have been able to misconstrue the meaning of the Second Amendment, or to manipulate the interpretation of it to benefit their profit margin, is unconscionable. And we will continue to have this dialogue unless, as I think Mark hit on the nail, we have the public will to stand up to this industry, very much like it had to happen with the tobacco industry. It was clear tobacco was causing cancer and killing people. It wasn't until the late 90s that we finally stood up as a nation and said enough is enough.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And also, Andrew, the person who doesn't get that is Antonin Scalia and the rest of the court. They made that ruling in 2008 that one has an individual right to keep and bear arms, and ignored well-regulated. Although Scalia did say that this does not mean that there should be no regulation on just everybody owning automatic weapons. He kind of said that, but still it upheld for the first time in history. For the first time in history, a court upheld the individual right to keep and bear arms outside the context of a militia. Andrew, thank you for your call. NAACP.org. The interim president is our dear brother, Derrick Johnson. Derrick, thank you as always, man. Okay.
Thank you, Mark. It's just that, you know, I was actually in Vegas last night. That's the sad part. Unfortunately, I was asleep in bed, and my wife panicked when she seen it. I had no idea.
So you were in Vegas when this happened? I didn't know that.
I was in Vegas. Yeah, I was there speaking at a conference for the postal workers. It's important for me to see that reality, because any of us at any given time could be subjected to this level of threat or death, unbeknownst to ourselves, because of bad policy.
Were you in Mandalay?
I was in Valley.
So, because I was remembering when we had the convention. When we had the convention in Mandalay? That was what, 3 or 4 years ago?
3 years ago.
That's 3 years ago. That's right. And I remembered that. But you were there. I had no idea.
I was in Vegas on the night of the incident, and before I went to bed. And you know, of course, it was a concert of country music, so that's not necessarily my take. I probably would have been in bed any day. Anyway, but any of us could be subjected to the what happened. You know, unbeknownst to us, just being at the wrong place at the wrong time, and someone, you know, some deranged or sensible or whatever the case may be, individual, open fire.
So what happened? Did your wife hear the gunshots?
No, my wife was at home, and in the news report, I was fast asleep, and she frantically called because she didn't know what was going on.
So she woke you up in the midst of it?
Yes.
And so what did you do after you got that call, Derrick?
I was, I didn't know what was going on. Literally, I was asleep. I had no idea. And only when I received the call, and she called several times before I realized I had missed calls, and I called back, and she told me, she said, "Are you okay?" Because I'm seeing on the news what's taking place. That's frightening to know that any one of our loved ones could be away and this happens. That is frightening to know that any of us could be at any given place at any given time and something like this happens. And in most cases, it could have been prevented simply by having sensible policies to regulate our gun laws in this country.
So when you found out, Derrick, did you get up out of the bed? Did you go outside? Did you contact security in the hotel, or just try to see what the state of things were, or what?
But everything was on lockdown. So I learned that the hotels were on lockdown. People could not move about. But again, there were many people in that city who were simply asleep or
right.
whatever they were doing with no knowledge of what was taking place after the fact. They would walk right in the middle of it.
Yeah, that is scary, bro. No, I didn't know. I didn't know you were in Vegas.
And therefore, meeting with postal workers and all of those individuals, and I hope none of them were harmed as a result of this. But we're talking about good people who work every day simply going to a conference so they can perfect their craft in their area of work.
And we know everybody goes to Vegas for conferences. So we don't know about any. I know we had several staff at Sirius XM that were staffing that concert. They're all safe. I don't know whether any postal workers. This was the Postal Workers Union.
Yep.
Yeah.
American Postal Workers.
Yeah. All right. Well, Derrick, glad you're safe, man.
Thank you.
All right, brother. So we'll talk again next week. Derrick Johnson, folks, interim president of the NAACP. Thank you, Derrick. You and our thoughts and prayers, man. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on as always.
All right, man.
Mm-hmm.